It is very clear that this country is still struggling with racism. We still have racism showing up in almost every institution. We don't know why that man did what he did. And for Charlie Kirk to say, we know he did it because she's white, when there's no evidence of that, it's just pure race mongering, hate mongering. It's wrong.
Welcome back, Tribe. We got an update on everything going on with this Irina case, the Ukrainian refugee that got murdered on the train station, or not the station, but the bus. As you can see from this video alone, I cleaned up a little bit of the audio. You can clearly hear him say, I'll play it for you one more time. Listen. And then you hear somebody say, oh shit, one more time. Now we at least know why they were covering it up so much. This is blatant. It is a hate crime. We were vindicated in what we said earlier, why they were suppressing the story as much as they were, simply for the fact that it is horrible optics. The narrative is completely destroyed. The guy was walking around saying, I got that white girl after stabbing her. A full video was released that we can't show you here that has tracked all over social media showing the moments that she passed away, how she passed away, which is horribly gruesome. She had a look of fear in her face as she watched her life slowly drain from her body with a piece of scumbag shit that should be put down the same way you put down a rabid animal. Walks away as if nothing ever happened. So, in light of that, some new information has come out recently, but I'll play a few clips for you. What we found out was that we understand now that the judge wasn't even actually a judge that passed the bar. It was a judge that went to school, but never actually got the qualifications required. Never was a lawyer, licensed lawyer. So the corruption is far deeper than we ever expected. Let's just get into another aspect of this that has kind of surfaced. $3.3 million from left-wing NGOs. The MacArthur Foundation went to Mecklenburg County, to reduce jail populations. The very county that released career criminal DeCarlos Brown 14 times. Follow the money. I'll read you what this says here just so you can see. In 2020, Mecklenburg County was awarded its second grant in the amount of $1 million. Who pocketed the money? From the MacArthur Foundation as part of the Safety and Justice Challenge. It's almost like an inversion where they spit on your face. Was there safety and justice for this case? Safety and justice 14 times? You were freed? Safety and justice. For the county's efforts to develop and implement strategies capable of positively impacting the main drivers of local jail population. In 2022, the county was awarded an additional $350,000 to ensure recent reforms were sustainable. This brings the total investment of $3.3 million to continue safely reducing the jail population. They're planning to implement strategies aimed at addressing system inefficiencies, enhancing existing services, providing non-jail alternatives. The non-jail alternatives was the Magistrate Judge Rehabilitation Company, which she is the CEO at. I am not making this up. She lets people go, puts them in her rehab program for inmates, criminals, which she gets kickbacks from. This is not somebody that ever practiced law, was not a lawyer. It keeps getting worse.
Things that infuriate the media a million times more than a bloodthirsty thug freed from jail 14 times just to be charged with stabbing this girl to death. Defending passengers from bloodthirsty thugs. Defending yourselves from thugs. The death of a thug who overdosed after pointing a gun at a woman's stomach. Enforcing the law. Hate crime hoaxes. Deporting an alien trafficking suspect. Showing mugshots of alien gangbangers. Frat bros smiling, teaching math, Dr. Seuss, Charlie Brown, the Constitution. Black women on syrup bottles. White girls. When the media finally decided to mention the girl who was slaughtered on the train, they weren't outraged that it happened. They were outraged that we saw it happen.
Some of the comments around this story are baldly racist.
Because the color of the suspect and victim don't neatly fit their narrative. Things that infuriate.
Succinctly put. So let's continue on. The magistrate judges. Believe you me, I was just as shocked to hear this as you might be. Did you know that many of the judges releasing violent criminals into your communities aren't even lawyers? Judge Teresa Stokes, who released a career criminal who murdered the Ukrainian refugee on a promise he'd return to court for a trial, is not a lawyer. In states like North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Texas, and Arizona, the magistrate signing your arrest or search warrant or deciding bail amounts might not even be a lawyer, you guys. Look at this. Says the magistrate judge who released a violent criminal that murdered a Ukrainian refugee never passed the bar, and there is no evidence she completed law school. That in and of itself is absolutely mind-blowing. How corrupt is everything? Truly. So now the right wing is starting to really shine a light on so many of these cases that have been happening, because it's not in isolation. This isn't a one and done, something gruesome and horrific, that poor girl. This has been happening. The media has been suppressing it, and everybody else just has to pretend we don't have a problem with Black culture. Extreme amounts of disproportionate violence amongst Black men. And you have to be quiet about it, because we'll hurt feelings, because the truth is irrelevant. Optics is all that matter. We're pretending to hold hands and be kumbaya while Glocktavius shoots you in the fucking face and stab Quisha just slices your throat. And you're supposed to be like, that was an accident. They were systemically oppressed. You were murdered for looking in a certain direction on a train? Bro, don't you know there were socioeconomic factors at play here of why you lost your life? You'll get a cap busted in your ass by Glocktavius. You're just trying to finish your pizza shift, 8 hours of flipping pizzas, kneading dough, making minimum wage, going home smelling like fucking marinara sauce. No, Glocktavius, we would like to not have caps in our asses being busted. Can you chill for a second? Can you just spend 30 days with non-homicidal thoughts? Is it so hard to ask? Maybe you would smile more and see, smell the roses, the upside to life, instead of busting caps in asses, being obsessed with homicidal fantasies. Can we do that? Maybe, we wouldn't have to then have our heads on a swivel with caps being busted in anuses. It'd be nice, wouldn't it? It would be nice. So then we have this whole list of people where this is happening. It says Caitlin Strait, who was 27 weeks pregnant, was shot in the head by Barry West. Brianna Kumpfer, stabbed by Sean Laval Smith 46 times. 46 times. Dr. Julie Gard-Schnuel, stabbed by Harold Rashad Dabney III while out walking her dog. Butchered to death, hacked to death by this upstanding citizen. Dogs, murderers. I want to be very clear about this. We are focusing on the lens of Black versus white here, but these people also criminalize the most those in their own community. And these liberal judges, I was correct when I told you from that magistrate information there, when I told you the left wing that propagates race baiting, race relations, and they use that to drive a wedge to get more votes from minorities, has ushered in this exact thing happening. And increasingly so, because they are soft on crime, and they also let the murderers out willy-nilly and allow them to commit these and tell them that they're actually the victims, that they're actually systemically oppressed, that white people have oppressed them. So then they victimize white people. And they do it so nonchalantly with extreme violence that you have your throat slashed and the guy a hop skipping away off of the bus, doesn't even care. And then the rest of the people who were all Black right here in this photo, you have black, another Black man. She just got stabbed. This is after being stabbed, looking down on herself. The saddest video ever, as literally the life drains out of her body and she keels over. Guy runs off like a complete pussy. These don't give a fuck. These three people here do not even care. Zero reaction. She's looking like, oh my God. And then let me get away from this bleeding, dying person. Magically, another guy comes around from, I don't know what part of the bus, And then he pulls out his phone. Let me get out of the way. Pulls his phone out to record. I'm not kidding you. That is incredible citizenry. Wow. Characters, morals, values. Stupendous. This is the culture we're protecting. Do it for the culture, bro. Pull out the phone so you can post that shit on WorldStar. WorldStar. Incredible. Incredible. And here's a news report about the other woman. This was in Auburn.
Police have made an arrest in the death of former Auburn professor Dr. Julie Shenelle. This update coming just about 5 minutes ago in a press release. Auburn police say they have arrested Harold Rashad Dabney III from Montgomery and have charged him with 2 counts of capital murder in connection to the death of Dr. Shenelle at Kiesel Park. Police say they received a call about a suspicious person on around 8:45 a.m. on Sunday morning on Beehive Road. And Auburn police say through contact with Dabney, they have made the observation and through further investigation have labeled Dabney the suspect in the homicide involving Dr. Shenelle. Now, according to Lee County Coroner Daniel Sexton, Shenelle's wounds appear to be consistent with sharp force trauma, meaning caused by a knife or other sharp objects. And also, Auburn police say that the Shenelle's red Ford F-150 that was taken from Kiesel Park on Saturday was found along Lee Road 177 or Wire Road in Auburn. And Auburn police have taken that truck. And it was found abandoned again on Wire Road in Auburn on Sunday afternoon. Now, Kiesel Park is still closed and remains a crime scene with crime scene tape still up at the gate. And Auburn police say it will remain closed through the weekend.
And people have started uncovering more of this guy's past, but not just his brother too. So if you look here to the right, this is his absolutely stellar of a citizen, doctor / engineer / rocket scientist. Absolute boon for humanity's future. What's his name? Stacey DeJean Brown, who shot and killed a white 65-year-old man in the face while he was walking home from work in 2012. He then used the Charlotte light rail system to flee the scene. Then their father, also an incredible, ingenuous human being that has contributed to society as a whole, is a criminal, Mr. DeCarlos Brown Sr., with prior arrests from breaking and entering, felony conspiracy, larceny, and possession of a weapon on the University of North Carolina Charlotte campus. We have a family, a career criminal family, and boy, don't they look like outstanding citizens that you would love to have a beer with, you would have a picnic, invite to hang out with your family. We're supposed to say that this career criminalism is supposed to be fine, that we shouldn't lock certain people away, aka criminals, just because there is a subculture within the community that spawns nothing but animalistic violence. I'm talking about the hood culture, the rap music, the glorification of violence, hypersexualization, drug use, everything in that subculture that's completely regressed Black culture as a whole. We now have disproportionate violence, and the numbers are absolutely staggering. Matt Walsh covered a couple of them here.
Statistically, a white person is 30 times more likely to be killed by a black person than the other way around. We know that. That's just true. In 2019, there were about 560,000 violent interracial incidents between blacks and whites. 470,000 of them were black on white. That's 85%. 85%. 240 black people were killed by whites. 560 white people were killed by blacks. And this is all in spite of the fact that white people make up 60% of the population. Blacks are 13%. Just by raw numbers, not even per capita, but raw numbers, there are more black interracial killers than white. That should be impossible. There are 171 million more white people in the country, and yet there are more black interracial killers. By raw numbers, the young black males in particular are an order of magnitude more violent and more likely to commit crimes than any other group in the country. Black men are 5 or 6% of the population. They commit the majority of murders in the country. That makes black males in America more dangerous than perhaps any other demographic in the entire world, let alone in this country.
How insane is that? And these are the numbers. Statistically, a white person is 30 times more likely to be killed by a black person than the other way around. So the number I quoted in the first video was 41.5. We also then learned later that certain Hispanics and some lighter-skinned blacks have been misrepresented in crime statistics where they were labeled white. People are now starting to uncover troves of mugshots with descriptions of the crimes committed, and they are labeled as white. They do not look white. And Middle Easterners have been labeled as white. So the true, raw, gross numbers, when you factor in the misrepresentation, most likely approaches the 40 times number that I quoted earlier. So in 2019, there were 560,000 violent interracial incidents between blacks and whites. 470,000 of them were black on white. Do you understand what that means? That's 85% here in the quoted numbers. 85% of interracial violence is black on white. There are 171 million more whites in the country than there are blacks. Yet somehow, a majority of the crime is committed by blacks. We need to talk about it. It is a problem. If you feel uncomfortable, that's a good thing, because you should be uncomfortable. That is atrocious. That is a nightmarish statistic that should make everybody who hears it uneasy. We shouldn't sweep it under the rug like leftists do. We should not pretend it doesn't happen. Don't believe your own eyes. We shouldn't act like this, because you'll never solve this problem. We pretend we don't have one. It grows. It metastasizes like cancer. We've been pretending for decades that this isn't an issue, and it's gotten more violent, more aggressive, more hardcore, that they even have a new name within the black community called YN, that these young black men are of a whole different cloth altogether, extremely violent. They care about nothing. They will end your life over a word, a look, a simple exchange, a glance. How insane is it that they call themselves OGs, that they make it to their mid-20s as something, a name that's given to uncles and people of, 40s, 50s, 60-year-old is now, that is labeled for a 20-year-old, an achievement to survive this long. That is what black culture has become today. And I know there's going to be people that are going to say, but not all. This is just a subsect. The problem is they have an outstanding impact on the rest. So you could say, well, it's only a small portion. Black men make up 7% of the population. 7%. Okay, blacks 13% in total with women. But black men make up 7% of the population and commit 85%. Isn't that crazy? Okay, by raw numbers, the young black males in particular are an order of magnitude more violent and more likely to commit crimes by any other group in the country. They're 5 or 6% of the population, but they commit the majority of murders. I believe it's 60% is what he quoted. 60% of the murders by only 6% of the population. We want to pretend that's not a problem. That's insane. And then the argument comes up, well, you should look at the crimes committed by whites as a whole. And then they'll say, well, whites are more criminal, more violent than blacks as a whole. And then you have to somehow explain to these people what the fuck a Venn diagram is, and then per capita. You understand? Per cap. Then they'll go, they always have to use this magic called per capita. Here's what per capita, I will visualize it for you with a Venn diagram. I understand you're struggling because you probably graduated high school. If you graduated with a fucking 4th grade reading level, you were passed through simply the next 6 years of education or more, most likely, from the shitty school you go to that is also overly funded. This has been confirmed too, that even some of the the underfundedness of schools has also been debunked. Actually, some of the ghetto schools, the urban schools that are struggling have the most funding per student and still produce the worst outcomes. So if it's not a money problem, what is it? What's the first thing these kids put onto their heads and their earphones and press play on? Hood music, drill rap, degenerate fucking shows, degenerate shit on social media. Everything's about killing, selling drugs, doing drugs, having sex, whatever other criminal activities. You invade a person, a young person that's very malleable to information, and you put that into their head nonstop every single day. Every day when they're done fucking around at school, not learning shit, they put that in and they listen to it. Watch somebody walk around with their phone on speaker because they probably can't even fucking afford earbuds. Listen to the absolute degenerate, ignorant shit that they're listening to. This ignorant hood shit, hood boogery is constantly invading a young person's mind, what do you think that does to their behavior? When the messaging of the music is so negative, they then begin exhibiting negative behaviors. You are what you think about. If all you hear and think about is murder, killing somebody, selling drugs on the corner, trying to survive, busting caps in people's asses, that's what you attract in your life. Your mentality starts to ooze out in your behavior. We need to talk about the music. We need to talk about the messaging in the Black community, especially towards young Black men. We need to talk about the horrible statistics for Black fatherhood. Where are the fathers? And how did we get here? And so much fatherlessness that Black women are raising these kinds of men. These are pain points that nobody wants to say out loud. And if you do, you may only bring it up if you also have Black skin, because you have no right as non-Black to talk about some of these issues, as if we don't have fucking eyeballs and we cannot see the statistics and the behaviors of people in the community. Unreal. Here's your Venn diagram so you can learn. Let's learn a little bit with Bo today. You're probably too busy loading up the mag with the switch to learn what this is, but here, I'll teach you. So this is criminals at the top. Don't worry about the bottom just yet. Let's hide that. Let's hide that like that. Okay. We got criminals here. So there are more white criminals, you see, because there's more white people. So that makes sense. So when you look at this and you go, well, who has more criminals, whites or Blacks? And you go, whites. And then they stop there and they go, you see, white people are more criminal in nature. Okay. But when you factor in per capita, because there's 171 million more whites than there are Blacks, and you do something called per capita person statistics as a population size, you get the graph on the bottom. And so look at the giant circle of white people. This represents all of them. And this is the proportion, the population percentage that commits the crimes. And then this is the small 13% of America right here, the Black. And then they have nearly the same amount of criminals overall as the entire white population that is per capita. Now, if you change this to murder, this Venn diagram looks worse. If young Black males commit 60% of the homicides, there are more green dots in here than there are the purple. For a population this tiny, which you're seeing right here, this little tiny population is committing more than the giant one that is per capita. Welcome to Venn diagrams and per capita 101. This is a problem. I saw literally this exact stupid excuse on the comments of the last video. I don't want to fucking hear it. Let's talk about, I want to see people talk about how there was a GoFundMe that started for the guy and GoFundMe deleted it extremely quickly because it would have been absolutely horrendous for the company's optics to keep that up. Not before they raised $64,000 with the most disgusting messages. There's already posts on Black Twitter. One of them said, clean up on aisle 7 right before he stabs her. This is a joke to some of these people. Here's what's going to happen. This simple. If the Black community doesn't turn its back on the subculture that's completely regressed Blacks as a whole, which is the hood, the gangbanging, the thug life. I don't care what you call it. If you don't, the rest of society will turn their backs on you. Everybody will. By default, whether you're good or bad, already happening. The conversation is shifting rapidly in this direction, and there's only a small window to rectify this, which includes massive accountability from the Black community right away denouncing this, or life will get harder for all of you. And for the innocent ones that will get bunched up with a thug life, the Pookies, the Rayways, the Glocktavius and Stab Keishas, I truly feel for you. You're trying hard to make it out here. It's not fucking easy. On top of that, your own community oppresses you. You're surrounded by violence. And if you do make it out, you have to literally make it out, as in get away from your own people. That is so fucked up. I truly do feel for those. You are surrounded by violent crabs in a bucket, and they will do everything they can to pull you down. You get made fun of for going to college. You get called a bunch of names for speaking proper. You get laughed at and mocked and ostracized for trying to get an education and studying. Literally, the culture has inverted on itself. Instead of bringing each other up, pull each other down, And if you're not in the hood doing street activities, you're less than, you're not as real as them. A real one, a real stupid one that ends up dead or in jail. Congratulations. Statistically, you will be killed in the streets by another black man. And it is a high percentage. Is that what we're celebrating? The culture? Is that what the culture wants to be known for? The culture that literally kills its own? I'm telling you, there is a small window here where a ton of black creators, and I've already seen them start popping up, calling this out. If the black community doesn't take full accountability for this and start policing their own, and didn't see nothing. If that's going to remain part of the culture, there will be a time, and very quickly approaching, where the leftist liberals with their suicidal empathy will be cast aside by all the people that are being victimized by a 6% of the population. And nobody will want to hear it anymore. Nobody will care about your socioeconomic factors. Nobody is going to care about your systemic racism. Nobody will want to be around you. Nobody will want to risk being around you because you may get your throat slashed. You may get robbed. You may get shot in the face. There are so many things that could happen to you for no reason whatsoever. You got a hat on. You came back from your pizza shift, AirPods on, listening to your own music, minding your own business. And you could become the next victim. This is the reality. No matter what a liberal wants to say, there are hardliners on the right that are way worse than anything I've ever even said here. This is coming from a place of love. I grew up in Atlanta. I've seen the culture. I've seen my own friends. I've had friends already dead. Some of my friends are dead from high school already. I went to a majority black school. I've seen it up close. I understand what gets pushed, what gets reveled, and what gets suppressed. So this is just a fair warning because I don't like to see a people regress in such a manner, be completely destroyed from the inside out. It's not even a group coming from the outside to suppress you. Your own communities literally suck the potential out of your own people. And you cannot say this out loud because we were in a censorship era where optics, virtue signaling, pretending you care about a community by letting them destroy themselves was more valuable than the truth, the real medicine people need to begin a conversation to start finding a solution. So I beg and I plead to listen to these words. This will hurt your feelings. You will think a certain way about me, and I accept it, and I'm fine with it. If this helps the conversation forward, if I have to catch some heat for this, because I know some of my friends that are dead, they deserve to live. And so I don't want to hear shit. There will probably be, after this video gets released, more murders and more that don't get covered that will be black on black, more multiple mass shootings. And we're supposed to be quiet about it because, they'll fix themselves. They will deal. It's not our problem. It's their problem. Let them fix their own house. Well, their own house is now spilling onto the streets and into the houses of others. Where do we go from here? Well, that's what the discussion is supposed to open up. Because if we can't be real about this, we can't be real about anything. And if we can't be real, then it's all fake and nothing matters. And it's all every man for himself out here in the streets then, which is no good for anybody. We all would like to have our wives take our kids out to the park, not have to have your head on a swivel, not have to look at somebody just because he's black. You have to be on heightened alert. Why? We should have a criminal justice system that works. All the most dangerous people should be locked away or killed. Executed. After committing one violent offense, you should be executed. Why are you let out 14 times? Whether you're black or white or Asian or Hispanic, it doesn't matter. We should be able to see that in society, the people walking around the park, pushing a baby stroller with their significant others are good citizens of society. You have nothing to worry about. Why? Because all the bad ones have been killed, put down like the dogs that they are, no matter the race. Violent people should not be allowed to commit violence over and over again because a section of society wants to virtue signal because they're so bored and rich and wealthy and removed from the problem that they don't have to face any of these consequences and want to feel important, while the rest of society has to suffer, dealing with monsters being released over and over again to victimize them over and over again. That's not justice. That's not law and order. I digress. Curious to see what everybody thinks. See you on the next one.